Happy Halloween, everybody. I am currently recording this on Tuesday morning as I'm back with another video. These are my Week 9 picks of the 2023 NFL season. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram, link in the box below. Hey, man, I needed a big week, and by God, did I have a big week. How about a 12-4 week for me? In week 8 puts me at 79-43 on the season. As all 4 of my losses, I don't have any regrets with. Usually I have 1 or 2 games a week where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that game back. But honestly, all 4 of these losses I don't regret because I was confident with all my picks. As half my losses were because of just a shot in the dark. It's like, you know what? It is what it is. If I get it wrong, I'm just picking, who I think is personally better. And then the other half were freak upsets. It was Carolina getting their first win of the year, and then obviously the big one, Denver beating Kansas City. But other than that, man, a great week for me, 12-4. I have the 4th best record in my tournament right now. As let's keep it rolling. These are my Week 9 picks of the season. We got 4 teams on the bye this week, and honestly, all 4 of them have pretty timely buys. Denver, San Francisco, Jacksonville, and Detroit all on the bye this week. As I think all 4 of those teams need a bye week right now, to be honest. So, these are my Week 9 picks. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get on to it. And I am so glad and so mad at the same time that my game is first at bat. As Thursday night, we got the Titans and the Steelers going at it at Heinz Field on Thursday night. More in depth in my pregame coming up. I hope to have that out by Thursday morning or Wednesday, but we'll see. But anyway, Titans and the Steelers. Tennessee is 3-4 coming off a surprising win over Atlanta where Will Levis absolutely lit up the Falcons in his debut. As Atlanta has a top 5 defense, I did not expect that from Will Levis at all. Derrick Henry had a solid game. DeAndre Hopkins had a solid game. As Tennessee had just a complete win altogether. As the Steelers, another pitiful, disgraceful performance against an upper echelon team in Jacksonville where we lost at home 20-10. And, if you've followed any of my pre-games and my pick-ems, you probably know where I'm going to go with this. Tomlin came out earlier today and said that JPJ is going to be the starter at corner for the remainder of the season and Levi Wallace is finally going to take a seat. Which, yeah, I'm super pumped about that. But it's like it should not take you halfway into the season to see that Levi Wallace is a complete scrub and that you traded with Chicago with Chase Claypool to basically get JPJ at number 32 overall if you're just going to go like, oh, we'll just wait until halfway to the season to give this guy a start when he's been locking down just about everybody he's gone up against. Sure, he gave up that touchdown against Travis Etienne on Sunday, but like I said, it's one bad play that he's given up all season. Let the kid learn. Who's starting at left tackle for this game? I don't know, but I will bet money that it's probably going to be Dan Moore if he's healthy enough to go. Kenny Pickett is, I don't know the status of him. I got to look more into it, but you're looking at a situation where you're probably going to be starting Mitch Trubisky in this game. Tennessee, they have an okay defense, but, at this point, I really don't care who you start at quarterback for this game because it's going to be the same result with the offense every single time. Do I think Kenny Pickett is below average and have I lost my patience with him? Yes, I have. But with Matt Canada's offense, it really doesn't matter. You could have 2007 Tom Brady out there. You could have 80s Joe Montana out there. You could have 80s Dan Marino out there. You could have 90s Steve Young out there. They'd all have a hard time with this offense. So I think whoever starts a quarterback, you got to take some shots down the field The defense has to come through big time because, like I said in my stream on Sunday, you take the following 4 players off the Steelers, this is by far a bottom 3 team in the league. You take Pickens, TJ, Highsmith, and Minka off this team, this is by far a bottom 3 team in the league. And Minka is most likely not going to play in the game because he's still dealing with a hamstring problem. Again, don't know the full status of him. Got to look more into it. But you're looking at a situation where more likely than not, he's not going to play in this game. So what are we going to do going up against a rookie quarterback who lit up a top 5 defense in his debut pretty much? You tell me. Normally, I give the Steelers a lot of confidence with home primetime games because we have a knack for rebounding in certain situations like that. I'm not feeling so confident about it this time. Those were Steeler fans. Those were Steeler teams of the past. Those were Steeler teams that stepped up to the reins in the past. I just don't get that sense with this team. I don't think this team is mentally strong enough to do that. I don't think this team is mentally prepared to do that. And with the way Tomlin always plays down to competition, because like I keep emphasizing, this screams a game where Mike Tomlin is going to look very unprepared and the team is going to take its reins after him and they're going to horribly play down because it's a rookie quarterback, which, yes, I know Mike Tomlin has a great track record of going up against rookie quarterbacks. But hey, C.J. Stroud lit us up a couple weeks ago, and to the best of my memory, the last time Tomlin lost to 2 rookie quarterbacks in the same season is 2016, where rookie Carson Wentz and rookie Dak Prescott beat the Steelers. So there may have been another time after that, but to the best of my memory, that's the most recent time that it's happened. And I hate to say it, guys, I think it's going to happen this year to make it the most recent time. Tennessee wins this game, even though we are favored to win, but I'm sorry, guys, I just don't see how we pull this one out with the way that we've been playing and the way that, you know, we got dismantled by Jacksonville, and our 2 previous wins were because of incompetence and because the other teams kept messing up. Tennessee gets this win Thursday night to go back to 500. I think our rush defense is going to have a terrible night against Derrick Henry because our rush defense has been so bad, even though we've held Derrick Henry in check. He's been a non-factor every time he's gone up against us, but I don't think that matters. I'm going with Tennessee to get the job done over us on Thursday. Alrighty, next up, we got the Sunday slate of games, and first up, we got a game in Frankfurt, Germany, as it should be a good one. We got the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs going at it in Frankfurt. Miami coming off a win over the Patriots at home once again. Kansas City lost to Denver for the first time in about 8 years. You know, I have a feeling that this is going to be kind of similar to the Sunday night game the Dolphins had a couple of weeks ago against Philly. But I don't think Miami's going to lose by 2 touchdowns in this game. I think they're going to be very competitive because, sure, the Chiefs lost, but Mahomes had the flu in that game. And I guess part of me was like, well, it's going to be the Michael Jordan flu game for Patrick Mahomes here, but that didn't really come to fruition. I think the Chiefs are healthier coming into here, but they just looked off. They had 5 turnovers against Denver in that game, and then former Chief Tyreek Hill making a case for Offensive Player of the Year. Jalen Ramsey looked great in his Dolphins debut, but like I said, I mean, this Chiefs team is just way too good to drop 2 in a row right there, and, you know, Miami doesn't really have a defense that can limit a high-octane offense like that, as I've seen in the past with the Dolphins over the past couple of years. And I just think that Kansas City will get off the schneid here, get their rhythm back in check with offense, and I think that they get it done here. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Miami's going to be real competitive in this game. Kansas City is favored by 2.5 in this game. So I'm actually going to make this my spread of the week, just because I think it's going to be a really solid game. Give me Kansas City to get the job done over the Dolphins here in a pretty middle of the pack, above average, high scoring game here. 32-24. Kansas City takes it by 1 possession here, and they cover the 2.5. I'm going to go Kansas City here. Next, for the regular Sunday afternoon games, we got the Vikings and the Falcons going at it in Atlanta. Well, you want the ultimate pity party story for the NFL? Look no further than the Minnesota Vikings. They went into Lambeau and beat the Green Bay Packers to improve to 4-4. But just when you think the Vikings are going to turn their season around, the snake comes and it bites them right in the ankle, as this is by far the most snake-bitten franchise in NFL history. Kirk Cousins is likely to miss the rest of the season with a torn Achilles against Green Bay. So the question for the Vikings is, who do they go with quarterback now? It's a shame. They get Justin Jefferson back, but now they don't have Kirk Cousins for likely the rest of the season, and probably they're looking at a situation where that could have been Kirk Cousins' last game in a Vikings uniform, because this is a contract season for him. However, it's not to say that Atlanta is going to be down a quarterback as well, because I don't know what they're doing with Desmond Ridder. He is a turnover machine, like I say every week. I think he's the one thing that really holds Atlanta back for being a complete team in the NFC, and they really need a quarterback. But Taylor Heineke comes out for Atlanta, and the Falcons have a little bit more fluidity offensively. He doesn't really turn the ball over a whole lot. He's much more careful with the ball. And I still maintain that Bijan Robinson needs to get more carries for Atlanta. But Atlanta, they're still a top defensive unit. I don't really think they have to worry too much about Justin Jefferson and Addison going off and KJ Osborne going off in this game now that the Vikings are going to be rolling with a backup for the rest of the season. So I'm going to go Atlanta to get the job done here over the Vikings and, you know, get back on track. I think they continue their winning ways at home. And Minnesota, my heart goes out to them, man. You know, I'm a guy that's a heavy critic of Kirk Cousins. Like, I never said that he's a bad quarterback. I just don't think he's elite, and I don't think he's clutch. But I think having Kirk Cousins under center definitely gives Minnesota a better chance at winning every game. So I'm going to go Atlanta to get the job done here over the Vikings. Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals and the Cleveland Browns going at it in Cleveland, as the Cardinals coming off a close loss to the Baltimore Ravens, as they got a garbage time touchdown pretty much against them. But Arizona did keep it relatively close with Baltimore, as they are 1-7 on the season. The Browns, they battled hard in Seattle, but they were unable to get the job done against a high-scoring Seahawks team, as the Browns are 4-3 on the season, I believe. Biggest question for the Browns is the same question every week about them. Is Deshaun Watson even going to play for him anymore? Because he keeps missing weeks for the Browns, man. You know, I think their backup is most likely going to be the starter now for the Browns. And I think 7 points may be a little too much for Cleveland in this one, because Arizona has battled real hard all season despite what their record indicates. I think they only have like a couple of losses this year that have been by double digits. So I'm giving Arizona credit here. But I just think overall the Browns are just too good defensively, even though they've had a rough couple of weeks on defense, giving up a lot of points. But I don't really think they got to worry too much about that with Arizona, because, like, they can score, but, you know, I don't think that they're capable of putting up 62, you know, like, obviously not 62 points. The Browns allowed 62 points in the past 2 weeks, but I don't think they're going to allow like 21 or more against Arizona, and I think the Browns defense steps up big and their run game gets the job done here. I'm going to go Cleveland here. However, I do think the Cardinals can make it a little bit closer than what people say, so I'm going to go Cleveland to get the job done here over Arizona. This was close to being my lock of the week, but I got a better matchup in store for that. But I am going to go with the Browns to get the job done here. Hardest one for me to decide this week by far. We got the Los Angeles Rams and the Green Bay Packers going at it in Lambeau. Well, when I finally start to give the Rams credit, they absolutely crapped their pants as they got destroyed in Dallas last Sunday, They're 3-5 on the year. Now they're starting to look like the Rams team that I expected them to be at the beginning of the season. But I guess I can cut them a little bit of slack because Matthew Stafford is dealing with a thumb injury. So I think that he probably won't play in this game, even though that he does have a lot of experience with playing the Packers in Lambeau, but he has historically struggled there. So I think it's going to have to come down to defense and the run game for the Rams here to get the job done here. But while Green Bay is off to a hideous start, especially offensively, I think Green Bay's defense is the X factor here because LA is just undermanned at quarterback here. So I think John Wolford is going to be the starter for the Rams in this one. And I just don't think with LA having their running backs at their disposal for this one, they're going to be able to stand up because Jordan Love has just not been cutting it this season so far for Green Bay outside of week 1. And I think Aaron Jones being back in the mix is a big confidence booster for the Packers here. And again, that defense they got, I think that they're more than capable of limiting the Rams on the ground. And overall, I just think Green Bay is due for a home win. So this is a scenario of whenever I'm unsure of who to pick, I go home team, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go Green Bay on this one. Again, I don't think offensively they get the job done, but I do think that the defense steps up here, and they kind of have like a similar game in week 1 than they did against Chicago. So I'm going to go with the Packers here to get the job done. If Stafford was healthy enough for this game, I'd probably go LA. But because he probably won't play in this game, I am going to go with Green Bay here. This is my toilet bowl of the week right here. We got the Washington Redskins. Yes, I am calling them the Washington Redskins. You don't like it? Too bad. They've been the Redskins for over 80 years. And now all of a sudden you have a problem with it. Get the hell out of here. The Washington Redskins and the New England Patriots going at it in Foxborough. But yeah, this is my toilet bowl of the week. I'll give Washington credit. They always play Philly tough for whatever reason, but against everyone else, they just look very mid. Sam Howell had a respectable game against Philly, but like I said, when he's not playing Philly, the guy gets sacked into oblivion. He looks like the second coming of David Carr, and prior to that Philly game, he'd been sacked over 40 times. So, like, I don't know what the deal is with Washington, but their O-line has to be one of the worst, if not the worst in the league with the way that Sam Howell's just been taking a beating all season. And while New England does have a physical defense that can ring up sacks, my question with them again is offense. However, I will give Mac Jones a little bit of credit. He has looked a little bit better as in the past couple of weeks because he led that game-winning drive against Buffalo. And in my opinion, he did what he could against Miami until the Patriots offense just ran out of juice. Washington's defense has been a major letdown this year, and New England's offense isn't any better. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring game for all the wrong reasons. It's going to be, you know, an inept defense going up against an inept offense. I think Washington has the upper hand offensively here, but New England counters that with their defense here because the Redskins are just way too inconsistent offensively. So again, another scenario. Whenever I don't know who to pick, I go home team. So I'm going to go New England here just because they're the home team, just because it comes down to who do I trust more when it comes to defense and the overall team that they have. And for right now, I would say it's New England. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Patriots here just because they're the home team and just because I have a little bit more faith in them than Washington. Next, we got the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. As last week, I said I would not watch a single minute of that Bears-Chargers game on Sunday night. So, what did I do? I did my laundry, I cleaned up my dishes and utensils in my kitchen, went for about a 90-minute walk, and by the time all that was done, it was the fourth quarter, and predictably the Bears were getting blown the hell out, so I made a good call right there. So, hey, next time that, you know, there's a Sunday night game on that I don't want to watch, and the Pens and or the Bulls don't play on Sunday night, so I can counter that with that, that's what I'm going to do, I guess. But the Bears, I mean, they looked like, I mean, they were pretty much the team that I expected them to be just basing off the highlights, while the Saints have been the complete opposite. I mean, the Saints got the job done over Indy. The offense has clicked big time. I was completely wrong there. More specifically, Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill, they both had big games. Derek Carr had a really solid game as well. The Saints offense in general, 511 total yards of offense. Brings me back to the Christmas Day game they had a few years ago against Minnesota, where Alvin Kamara had 6 touchdowns against them. The defense could have done better for the Saints, just because I expect the defense to be in the top 5, top 10 this year for the Saints. But going against Chicago with a backup right here, I don't think they got to worry too much about that. So this is actually my lock of the week right here. I'm going to go New Orleans here. It looks like their offense is finally starting to click. It looks like Derek Carr has found his groove. It looks like Alvin Kamara makes this offense whole for the Saints. So I'm going to go New Orleans easily here. They're my lock of the week. Then we got the Seattle Seahawks and the Baltimore Ravens going at it in Baltimore. This could be a really good game, as the Seahawks now lead the NFC West at 5-2, as the 49ers have dropped 3 straight since starting 5-0. As, like I said at the beginning, I think it's a timely bye for the 49ers. They need a bye real bad. They're on a 3-game losing streak, and they just need to regroup and get healthy again. But Seattle, they took advantage. They're 5-2. They're a pretty good football team. The Ravens, hate to say it, they've been clicking on all cylinders this year on offense. Defense looks strong again. But the biggest X factor here, Lamar Jackson just doesn't lose against the NFC. He's 16-1 against the NFC in his career. And I see that trend continuing until an NFC team actually beats the Ravens under Lamar Jackson. So as much as I think Seattle can make it a good game, I just trust Baltimore a little bit more here, because the Seahawks, they did struggle against the Browns, and now they fly across the country to play the Ravens in Baltimore. I'm going to go with the Ravens to get the job done here in a pretty high-scoring game and a hard-fought game here, though. So I'm going to go Baltimore here, unfortunately. Then we got another hard one for me to decide. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Houston Texans going at it in Houston, as the Bucs, they dropped a hard-fought game last Thursday to the Buffalo Bills on a last-second Hail Mary that should have been defensive pass interference on the Bills, but at the same time, the Bucs shouldn't have even been in that situation if they had just, taken care of business from the beginning. Baker Mayfield was questionable, but he played well enough in that game in order for Tampa Bay to win, and I think now that the Bucs have a significant amount of rest going into Houston Sunday, I really don't think his health concern is a major factor for this game here, as I think Tampa Bay's fully rested. The Texans, they allowed Carolina to beat them, as Bryce Young, was it Bryce Young starting? I think it was. Can't remember, and I'm not going to try to remember. But the bottom line is the Panthers got their first win. They beat the Texans. My question is Houston starting to become, quote, that team for me when it comes to pick'em? These guys know what I'm talking about, because they look like a team that now I can't trust when it comes to pick'em. I give them credit, they lose. I pick against them, they win. The Falcons and Titans are 2 of those teams that are like that for me. So knock on wood, hopefully I'm wrong about my Thursday pick. But it looks like Houston's starting to become that team for me and pick them where I can't trust them. But anyway, if you've been following my channel all season long, you probably know where I'm going with this. I like the Buccaneers in this matchup, honestly, because they got a decent amount of rest. They're coming off a Thursday game. Sure, they're still on the road and they're going to Houston, and back-to-back road games are never easy to play in. But like I said, I just think the rest factor is a big contributing factor for the Bucs here, and I like them in this game. Houston's too inconsistent at home. I think that they can make it a really good game with the offense that they got, but I just like Tampa Bay a little bit better in this one, so I'm going to go with the Bucs to get the job done over the Texans. Then for this later Sunday slate of games in the 4 o'clock Eastern Time hour, we got the Indianapolis Colts and the Carolina Panthers going at it in Charlotte, as the Colts, 2 straight home losses where they put up a decent amount of points on the board. 38 against Cleveland, 27 against New Orleans. So it's like the Colts, they can score points even without Anthony Richardson, it looks like. And it looks like Gardner Minshew is a viable backup for him, and he's capable of having a solid game. But it's like their defense is trash. Like, they have allowed 77 points in the past 2 weeks, so I definitely don't trust Indianapolis defensively while their offense is clicking. Carolina, they're 1-6. They got their first win of the season against the Houston Texans, so no more winless teams in the league, no more unbeaten teams in the league. Only took 8 weeks to do so. But here's the thing. The Panthers, they're 1-6, but recently they've been battling hard in a lot of their games, and while they couldn't finish off their opponent from the previous week, they were able to do so against the Texans. I still maintain that they're better off with Andy Dalton at this point, but I think that Bryce Young is starting to get a little bit more confidence the more time that he plays, and Carolina's starting to find a little bit of a rhythm offensively. And Carolina's defense, they're going to have a tall order here going up against Indy, who's on a scoring binge lately. But again, it's like the Colts are too inconsistent for me to pick. Like, the entire AFC South outside of Jacksonville has that problem for me in pick'em. So I really don't know who to lean more towards in this game, if I can say the Colts are going to continue it offensively on the road, or if Carolina's win was just emotional for them. But regardless, this is my upset of the week, baby! I am going to say the Carolina Panthers make it 2 in a row. I like the momentum that they got going in this game. I like that the confidence that they built off of Bryce Young. And I like that their defense steps up here, taking advantage of going up against a backup quarterback here in Gardner Minshew. And I don't know how much longer Indy can keep it up with the offense here. But regardless, I'm going to say Carolina gets their second win in as many weeks, because they are starting to finish off some games after battling hard for much of the season, and I think they get it done here today, or Sunday rather. Give me Carolina to upset the Colts. Back-to-back weeks of beating the AFC South for Carolina. Alrighty, then. This was close to being my toilet bowl of the week, but I think Washington and New England just won upset because of the complete mismatches that they had, but this is a good candidate for it as well. Giants and the Raiders out in Vegas. The Giants, I don't know what the hell they were doing right there. Brian Daboll cost them that game big time, as they allowed the Jets to tie the game at the end of regulation after several blown opportunities and a lot of questionable play calling in the second half and in overtime for the Giants with their third string quarterback. Granted, I mean, there's nothing that they can really ask him for because it's third stringer. I don't know if Daniel Jones is cleared to play for this game. It looks like he's doing a little bit better, but I don't know the status of him fully. Go ask a Giants fan about that. But then you look at the Raiders. You think our offense is bad, and I say it. Our offense is terrible. However, at least the Steelers can score at least 21 points sometimes. Vegas is the only team this year that has not cracked 21 points or more. They are that bad offensively. And what I saw Monday night was no exception. Jimmy Garoppolo played horrible. The run game was deplorable. The defense, sure, they got that pick 6 by Marcus Peters, but that was pretty much the... Like I said, you know, when your defense scores half your points, you are not a good offensive team, man. Josh Jacobs has been a really big disappointment. Devontae Adams as well, who I thought was going to be the bulk of Vegas's offense this year. 1 catch on 11 targets last time I checked for him. Vegas is just completely inept offensively, whereas like the Giants, they're starting to play better defensively, as the Giants have actually rebounded quite well on defense. Like I said, they came a long way from getting blown out in week 1, and then especially on that Monday night game against Seattle. The Giants have actually played well defensively. They just need to find some rhythm back on offense, and I think Brian Daboll can definitely do that with the offense with Saquon Barkley. So I'm going to go with the Giants here just because Vegas absolutely sucks offensively, And like I said, I just like the Giants more on defense. So I'm going to go with New York to get the job done here because they've shown me they can actually win with a backup. Hopefully that Brian Daboll can actually just be competent for this game. But I am going to go with the Giants here. Now we got my rivalry of the week for Week 9, as it's a classic one. The Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles going at it in Philly. These two absolutely hate one another. It's a cold-blooded, vicious rivalry every time these two go at it, and this week is going to be no exception. You take a look at the Dallas Cowboys. They absolutely dominated the Los Angeles Rams. The thing with the Cowboys is, did that 49er game wake them up? Because it wasn't too long ago where on Sunday night the Cowboys got blown out 42-10 on Sunday Night Football against the 49ers, who were unbeaten at the time. But did that game wake them up? It's starting to look like it. Dak Prescott played really well against the Rams in that game. Probably one of the better games of his career. The defense was superb in that game. They had the pick sixes on Matthew Stafford. Micah Parsons was all over the field against them. And the Cowboys just overall just had a dominant game against the LA Rams. Now, granted, like I said, Stafford did hurt his thumb in that game, but still, the Cowboys, they just dominated the LA Rams from head to toe. Philadelphia Eagles, on the other hand, they win it 38-31 over Washington. They're 7-1 on the season, best record in the NFL now. But once again, Philly struggled. They're 7-1, but I can't really say they've been dominant this year because in a lot of their games, they've struggled. But I will say, A.J. Brown is an absolute stud. Titans got to be kicking themselves as the weeks go by for letting him go. He had a $125. He has now had a $125 yards in 6 games this season. Jalen Hurts had a really solid game with 4 touchdown passes. Red zone offense, that being said, has struggled, and that seems to be Dallas's strong point with their defense and a couple of fumbles. But, hey, when Philly is in the red zone, they got to do that tush-push, man, because that seems to be the biggest X factor as far as Philly's offense goes. But I think the Cowboys do have that defense that can read that kind of play from head to toe. So, overall, I think these two match up really well against each other, mainly because it's NFC East familiarity. But it comes down to which matchup do I trust more. And at this point, I think I trust Philly's defense more than I trust Dallas's offense in this matchup. Because like I said, while Dak Prescott turned in a really solid game against the LA Rams, Philly has a really tough defense to penetrate when it goes through the air. Not so much through the ground, but it just seems like Dak Prescott, ever since CeeDee Lamb came into the mix, he's been trying to develop more into that pocket passer where Philly can counter that. And I trust the Eagles offensively in this game, but the Cowboys can counter that with their defense. So it's like, I think it's going to come down to the immovable object against the unstoppable force, if you will, for this matchup right here. I think Philly has to have a complete game. They can't keep turning the ball over. And this will be an exception to where it's like, yeah, the Eagles struggle, but, take a look at who they played. It's the Dallas Cowboys. They're a good football team. But Washington is just a very mid team that Philly just always struggles against. So who do I have for this one? I'm going to go with the Eagles for this one because one thing here. Do I trust the Cowboys enough to win a game of this magnitude? I'm not ready to say that yet because Dallas, they're the only team to lose to Arizona this year. And then obviously we saw what happened against San Francisco a couple weeks ago, like I said. The only difference here, I don't think the Cowboys lose by 32. Absolutely not. I think if Dallas loses this game, it's going to be like in the neighborhood of about 4 to 7 points. It's going to be a highly contested game. It's just typical NFC East showdown here. But I think I trust Philly more because Philly, in their last 24 starts under Jalen Hurts, they're 22-2. They're very tough to beat at home. They always play the Cowboys tough at home, and I think that trend continues. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to win a very hard-fought game over the Cowboys. Sunday Night Football, check your local listings, as it should be a dandy. It's the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals going at it in Cincinnati. Obviously, the biggest storyline for this game, last time these two met, was on January 2nd of this year, where it was the Damar Hamlin game. Thank the Lord above that he is doing well and that he's, quite frankly, alive. So, I mean, that game, it's like take a shot, however, for every time that NBC mentions Damar Hamlin for this game. But still, this is going to be a solid game. The Bills are 5-3, and like, I've had with suspicion for the Bills entering last Thursday, they won, they beat Tampa Bay, but it wasn't ideal. They still struggle to close games out, and they've done that over the past 4 games. They have allowed opponents an average of 10 points in the fourth quarter. So Buffalo, they won, they closed it out, but they have really struggled. I mean, they struggled in London against Jacksonville, where they lost. They were a bad play call away and a coaching decision away from losing to the Giants on Sunday Night Football. Then they lose in New England, and I'm not going to say they got bailed out by the refs, because that definitely should have been defensive pass interference on the Bills. But their defense, again, folded in the fourth, and they allowed Tampa Bay back in that game where Buffalo probably could have lost. So, I mean, it's like the Bills, they're winning games, but they are not looking ideal, and they are struggling. So, like, the struggles continue with the Bills. The Bengals, they've honestly been the complete opposite of the Bills. They got off to a horrendous start, but now they're starting to look like the Super Bowl contenders that everyone, not me, has been saying that the Bengals are. Joe Burrow is bouncing back, and when he's clicking with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it's one of the most lethal combos in the league, if not the most lethal combo in the league. Bengals got the job done in San Francisco over the 49ers. Defense once again looks sharp for the Bengals. And the Bengals, under this current court they have, they've been very tough to beat at home, especially in primetime. So it's like a combination of Buffalo struggling and with the Bengals starting to have their season back on track. I'm going to roll with the Cincinnati Bengals to get the job done here. Buffalo struggled too much. They've looked too suspect in order for me to fully trust them for me to pick them in a game. And the Bengals, they're getting hot like they usually have done over the past couple of seasons, mid-season. So I'm going to go Cincinnati right here to get the job done over the Bills. I do think the Bills will make it close because this matchup here is just too good for it to be, a blowout. But I'm going to roll with the Bengals to get the job done here. Wrapping up Week 9, this is a game I was going back and forth with. We got the Chargers and the Jets going at it in MetLife, as the Chargers, like I said, they blew out the Chicago Bears, whoop-de-doo. I still don't think LA is really all that good. The Chargers, in my opinion, are either the best-worst team in the league or the worst-best team in the league. I really don't think LA is all that good. I think they're very overrated. But Justin Herbert, he did well against, the Bears. No surprise there. Austin Eckler was good against, no surprise, the Bears. But that's no surprise. Like I said, I just don't really see the hype with the Chargers just because of Justin Herbert. I don't like that Mike Williams is on IR. I think the Chargers are really going to miss him. Whereas the Jets, they went from being the most overrated team in the league to being, in my opinion, very underrated. Are they the most talented team in the league? Absolutely not. But Robert Saleh has this team fighting every single week, and the Jets are just finding ways to win. Granted, I think they got handed that win against the Giants because the Giants kept messing everything up. The Giants had no business losing that game, where the Jets had 8 penalties. But Zach Wilson got that pass play going with a 25-second drill pretty much. Got the snap off with 1 second. Allowed the Jets to go to overtime. And then the Giants just had several misuses, which cost the Giants the game, and the Jets won. So an incredibly ugly win for the Jets. But I think the Jets are just finding ways to win, and they're battling hard every single week. And with the way the Chargers' pass defense and their defense in general has looked incredibly suspect, I think the biggest X factor here is going to come down to how the Jets play with the run game here. I am very confident that their running backs can get it going here. I am pretty confident, actually, that Zach Wilson can have a solid game here, too. Not a great game, but a solid game for his standard. And the Jets' defense right here, I think, is another big X factor, because, honestly, I don't trust Justin Herbert too much when it comes to stingy defensive teams, and the Jets are absolutely a stingy defensive team. So again, this is a game that I was going back and forth about because I want to pick the Chargers. I want to say that, you know, they're good enough to win this game. But the fact that they have to fly across the country from LA to New Jersey to play a very underrated Jets team, while the Jets do stay home, I think the Jets just have the upper hand and the advantage in this one. So I'm actually going to go with the Jets on this one. I like the Jets. I think I like them defensively, and I like them on the ground for this one. And I just don't trust Justin Herbert too much in both primetime and against stingy defensive teams. Pretty much like I always say about Kirk Cousins, and pretty much like I always say about Matthew Stafford. I'm going to go with the New York Jets to improve to 5-3, dropping LA to, I think, 3-5 if I'm not mistaken. Give me the Jets to beat the Chargers. That'll do it. Those are my Week 9 picks. Let's hope that I can have another solid week, and let's hope that we have another good week in general. Let me know what you think down in the comments. People in the tournament, let me see them picks. Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.